Welcome to the Fitness Simplified podcast. I'm Brooke Davis, women's functional nutritionist and fitness specialist with Elysian Women's Wellness, and I'm here to simplify your fitness. Hello. Today's episode is part 2 of intuitive versus educated eating, specifically on mindful eating. I left this for its own episode because I wanted to be able to refer people to this who needed it without having to listen to the whole beginning of the episode. But while it's still a very important concept to grasp, the intuitive versus educated eating, you can employ mindful eating with both intuitive and educated eating, as well as throughout the whole learning process. There are so many benefits to mindful eating. This isn't just about fat loss or body composition changes, although that is one of the potential benefits. It's not a guarantee if you don't employ the educated eating portion of it. But benefits range from improved digestion, reduced overeating, less cravings, more control over emotional eating habits, more enjoyment of food, as well as just supporting stress management overall, which is huge for a lot of people. These are obviously important for everyone, but specifically women in perimenopause who are finding that they get bloated over every little thing and now have a ton of extra stress on their bodies can usually benefit from making this a priority. So what is mindful eating? It basically is just what it says. Being present during your meals, paying full attention to your food when you eat, savoring each bite. Way too often we are eating completely distracted. We're watching TV, scrolling social media, working, driving. This can be really detrimental for a few reasons, not just other people on the road, but you're not paying attention to what you're eating. Maybe you just grab something on the go. Is it even good? Is it nourishing? Or are you just trying to shove something in your face and move on with your day? You're also not paying attention to how much you're eating. And unless you've already portioned it out, you will likely eat past the point of fullness, which can be exacerbated if these foods are processed and hyperpalatable, like we touched on in part 1. And then the speed at which you eat, the amount you chew, and even your preparation to eat can impact your digestion. So the faster you eat, the less you chew, and little to no prep and coming in stressed all reduce the ability of your body to digest your food optimally. So being mindful is really hard these days in general. I'm terribly guilty of it. Part of my job requires me to be on social media, and of course I get sucked in just like the rest of you. I'm thinking about work when I'm with my kids. I get it. But mindful eating is really connected to the general principles of mindfulness, which just emphasize being fully present in the moment, being aware and non-judgmental. When we're eating mindfully, we're focusing on the whole experience and each moment of the meal. So this means that we're tuning into our senses, savoring the taste, the texture, the smell, rather than just eating on autopilot. This allows us to actually appreciate our food, be aware of our body's natural signals, hunger and fullness, to really eat more intuitively, after we've been educated, of course. Mindfulness also teaches us to be non-judgmental with our food, which is especially powerful in how we approach food. Rather than labeling foods as good or bad or feeling guilty around what you eat, you can then accept your choices without criticism. Again, there's a point of education because intuitively you might want to eat the whole cake. But once you learn what a serving is, you can decide if eating the second helping is actually going to be serving you or not. And maybe it will. Maybe mentally and physically you need it at that point in time. And that's okay too. But again, the mindfulness, the education all tied together can really help you let go of restrictive or guilt-based eating patterns and instead approach each meal with some self-compassion and maybe even curiosity of like, what do I actually feel like my body needs? Something that I have changed my mind on as a functional nutritionist in the last few years is that food, yes, is fuel, but it's also connection, it's comfort, it's something to enjoy. So recognizing what you actually need in that moment and what is ultimately going to serve you long term is really important. By staying present and aware during your meals, you can build a healthier, more balanced relationship with food, one that nourishes both your body and your mind. Going into a little more depth with some of the benefits. So number 1 is improved digestion. when you smell something delicious and your mouth waters, that's actually the first step in your body preparing for digestion. So if you sit down, you smell your food, you get excited for a delicious meal, you're already off to a better start than if you didn't. Next is getting into that parasympathetic state. So living off of cortisol high is all too common for most women, but this is the fight or flight state, and we want to get into the rest and digest state. So taking a few deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your nose, coming back into the moment can help you do that, which will improve your absorption of nutrients, passage of food through your digestive tract. Then we get to the chewing. Our saliva is the first chemical process that helps break down the food that we eat so that we can get the nutrients out of it. Then, of course, we mechanically break it down with our teeth, chewing, and that helps that process even further. If you notice that you have undigested food in your stool, you need to chew better. You should not be able to see that. You might also need some digestive enzymes, but that's for a different episode. But all of these things together are going to improve your digestion, reduce bloating, gas, promote regular bowel movements. Then, of course, because you're chewing so much, you're going to actually get to taste your food. If you're a good cook or you have a partner who is, then you get to enjoy your meals and indulge of one of the many fine things that this world has to offer. Like I mentioned in the last episode, eating slower also helps to reduce the likelihood of overeating, which can help support weight loss or weight management, especially if you have gone through or going through the education part to help re-regulate your body's hunger and fullness hormones. Then it can also help reduce emotional eating. So instead of walking to the kitchen and grabbing the first pint of ice cream or bag of chips that you see, maybe instead you walk into the kitchen and you take 5 deep breaths. You ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? Am I really hungry or am I just bored? Am I really hungry or am I just stressed? Maybe you do need some ice cream, right? But even if it is, then you can mindfully portion yourself out some ice cream, eat it slowly, savor it, and be done with it instead of finishing the pint or the quart, as the case may be. So I have done some overview, but I want to walk through a full example of what mindful eating might actually look like throughout a meal. Step 1 is going to be pausing before you eat. So really first try to set your environment. Ideally, you're sitting somewhere with your feet on the ground, little to no distractions. If you have kids, maybe you're laughing, but do your best. Turn the TV off, put your phone away, get off the laptop. Take a moment to just breathe in and out through your nose. Take at least 3 breaths in through your nose with a 4 count. So in for 2, 3, 4, hold for 2 seconds at the top, and then out for 6 seconds like this. So in 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 2 more. This is also a really great time to practice gratitude. Where did the food come from? Thank Mother Earth for creating it. If you're religious, thank God for providing it. If your farmer grew it, send them a little thanks too. My husband's a farmer, if you didn't know. So there is also a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise that can kind of help you get in the moment before eating. This is you go through the senses, smell your food, look at the colors, the textures, notice how it looks before you start eating it. Using this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique can help you draw attention to those senses. Number 5 is you notice 5 things that you see around you. Take in details that you don't really normally pay attention to, like maybe the color of your plate, the texture of your food, the items in your surroundings, what's on the table. Number 4 is notice 4 things you can touch. This could be the coolness of the glass, it could be the feel of the table underneath your hands, or the texture of your utensil. And then 3 is notice 3 things you can hear. So tuning into just subtle sounds, maybe the clinking of silverware, the hum of the fridge, maybe the sound of your own breathing. Number 2 is notice 2 things you can smell. So take a second to smell the food. Again, start that digestive process. Anything else that you smell around you, any kind of candle or aromatherapy that you have, maybe you have a warm drink. And then number 1 is notice 1 thing that you can taste. So if you're about to eat, maybe it's just the first bite of your meal. Maybe it's just, what's your mouth taste like right now? Hopefully it tastes okay. And then once you get to eating, of course, we want to eat slowly, taking smaller bites, chewing thoroughly. The recommended time is 30. So I generally suggest 15 to 20 at the very least per bite, and then put your fork down between bites. This is huge because so often you won't finish your bite before or I won't, you won't even, don't even finish your bite before you're taking another one. So clear your mouth, put your fork down, clear your mouth, and then go back to it when you're done with that bite. Stay focused on the meal. Close your eyes. Maybe as you go through chewing that bite, your eyes are closed and you're really just focusing on what's in your mouth right now. Number 4 is going back to your senses. So tune into the taste, the texture, the temperature of each bite. Think about the flavors and the spices that are in it. Is it earthy, smoky, fresh, spicy? If you ever watch those cooking shows, think about what the judges say about those dishes. Get creative and really think about what you taste. And then step number 5 is to listen to those hunger and fullness cues. So pausing halfway through the meal, ask yourself how full you actually feel. Remember, it takes 20 minutes for your stomach to signal your brain that it's full. So if you finish your meal before that 20 minutes is up, you might have overeaten. Check in about the 10-15 minute mark and see how you're feeling. Look at how much you've actually eaten. Do you need to slow down? Another exercise that you can play with is the raisin exercise. And it's funny to me. I actually hate raisins, so I would never do this with a raisin. But you can do it with any food. And it's just about mindfully eating a single raisin. And it's about it being small and a single thing. And so this just can really guide you to slow down, pay attention to that single bite of food. And it's all similar stuff, but think about, start by looking at the raisin, right? Think about its color, the shape, the texture, look at all the little folds, the details. It's actually a very unique little thing, right? And then you can feel it. Hold the raisin between your fingers. Think about how it feels. Think about the weight, the texture. Is it sticky or is it smooth? And then you can smell it. Bring it to your nose, take in the scent, paying attention to anything that you might notice about it. And then, of course, the taste. Slowly put it in your mouth. Don't chew it. Just think about how it feels on your tongue. Now, start to chew it a little bit. Every little change in taste and texture as you chew. Again, it's just one little thing, but being able to really focus on it is why it can be helpful. So this just helps you really get, again, immersed in the act of eating, in what you're eating, encouraging you to slow down, appreciate every bite. It can be a really great way to bring mindfulness to your meals and can be incredibly grounding, especially when you're busy and you're stressed. Your mind can't actually be 2 places at once, which is another reason that breath work to start out is so great, because when you're focused on the count of your breath, the feel of it in and out through your nose, you're not thinking about anything else. Getting into some challenges. So like I said earlier, I know some of you are listening to this being like, yeah, that actually sounds amazing to eat a meal sitting down without distractions. Like, are you going to come take my kids? Are you going to get my work done for me? Like, how's this going to go? So believe me, I get it. Like everything I talk about here, though, this doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be every meal to be something that you work on. Think of it more as a practice. Do it when you can, when it's accessible to you, and maybe all you can do is 5 deep breaths and some gratitude before you eat. But then you actually have to get back to work. So that's better than nothing. When it comes to emotional eating, the first step is identifying what your habits are, then working to replace and shift them. Like I said in the earlier podcast, I actually did a live training recently in our free community. So I will link that below. Make sure to check it out if that is something that you struggle with. Eventually, I'll do a podcast on it. And then one of the hardest things for a lot of people is social situations, eating out, talking, being pressured with certain foods or drinks. So maybe here when you go out, the first thing you do is go into the bathroom and just take a few seconds to ground yourself. Take some breaths. Usually you're going to be sitting, so that's kind of an easy one. But one of the easiest ways I think to eat mindfully while socializing is just to put your fork down between bites. It gives you a chance to chat a little. It's a physical cue for you to mentally follow that, and or taking some small sips of water every few bites. You don't want to drink too much water like during your meal, but if it's a snacking event, maybe you get one small plate of things you enjoy that are going to serve you, enjoying, and then what you need as well. Enjoy them and then be done. Find a sparkling beverage or a water cup to occupy your hand for the rest of the event to avoid too much mindless snacking. after you've eaten your fill. To sum this up, I know this is not an easy thing to do. At this point, our habits are pretty well ingrained in our brains. Life is busy, but change is absolutely possible. And this can be a very powerful tool that is very worth doing. So give yourself some grace, but also maybe some sticky notes to help you remember to employ what you've learned here today. And as always, just do your best. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Fitness Simplified podcast. We are stoked to have you join us on your journey to better health and fitness. If you have any questions, suggestions for future topics, or just want to chat, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Brooke_Elysian and Facebook linked in the show notes, or via our website, ElysianWomen'sWellness.com. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we would be thrilled if you could take a half second to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Not only will you be helping others find our show, but you'll also be entered into our monthly $100 giveaway for new reviews. If there was something you heard that was helpful or impactful, please screenshot it, tag me, and share what it was so that we can bring you more. Plus, you'll be entered into our monthly Legion Recharge post-workout giveaway. New episodes drop every Monday, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Thanks for listening.